Thank you so much for staying with us. And as we said, we are still looking to the road leading to the 2024 elections. And we are speaking to as many political parties as possible. And today we're going to be looking at the IFP's manifesto. And in studio with us this evening is IFP Deputy President Inkosi Mzamo Buthelezi. Siyabonga Baba, thank you so much for being with us. Good evening.
Good evening to your good selves, and thanks for having the IFP.
Let's talk to some of those 13 pillars. Maybe we won't get through to all of them, but some of the most important for you.
Yes, I think first and foremost, it's very important that we explain why we are here as the country, because we are 30 years into democracy. So much has happened. There are so many good things that we have achieved as the country, but along the way we have derailed. The party which was trusted by the majority have actually neglected its responsibility. That is where we are today. So the IFP therefore sees itself as a solution, as a party that is coming with solutions for all the problems that we have.
And so, in your view, what do you think specifically has gone wrong?
I think the ruling party has turned away from its founding values. They have actually thought that by being in charge, they are only there to serve themselves, and they've actually neglected the cause, which is to advocate and advance the challenges that our people are facing, the majority. And they've actually allowed themselves to be embroiled in corruption and all the other things which actually made them to fail in as far as service delivery and fulfilling their promises to the people. And there isn't so much of leadership in the ANC with integrity, of which that is the most missing part.
And how would you as the IFP manage corruption?
I think as the IFP we have a very strong political will to address issues of corruption. And we have happened to be in charge of KwaZulu-Natal, and we're in charge of many municipalities in KZN. So there is a track record which speaks to our ability and capabilities as to what kind of government that people can expect from the IFP, where we are currently running, because we were told and we believe that government institutions and government institutions, so to say, were designed solely to advance the interest of the people and to make them fulfill their happiness, as opposed to be seen as entities for self-enrichment and the like.
You do address the land issue.
Yes, we do.
As the IFP.
Yes.
Let's talk about that.
I think the IFP has shown its interest in as far as preserving land to the black majority in South Africa. Because we remember that before 1994, KwaZulu-Natal, that's where we were in charge, we had power. The Prince of Kwapindanga and the founder of the IFP piloted Ingonyama Trust, which ensured that the remnants of what was left from the land that was taken by the white minority was retained to the hands of the black majority. So I think the IFP is the only party that has something to show as to how it wishes to address the issue of land, which is under the custodianship of the King and Amakosi.
So, in the current scenario, you feel that the Ingonyama Trust is managing the land properly for the people of KwaZulu-Natal?
Yes, we believe so, because putting aside the issue of speculations and fabrications that people normally speak about, of which is things that they don't know, there may be some challenges in terms of administration, but here and there, but that doesn't mean that the Ingonyama Trust as an entity has an issue. That's a very good model that the IFP is going to use in other provinces to ensure that when we bring back land to people, that's how it's going to be governed.
Except the court was not, it's not rumors. The court said, people paying rent to the trust is not constitutional. How do you respond to that?
I think it depends on how you look at it, because the court will actually decide on the basis of what is in front of them and the lack of understanding as to how Ingonyama Trust came about and how does it actually operate. Because as Inkosi myself, I understand there's no one in my area of jurisdiction and in the whole district where I reside that people had so many problems. And we know that some of these issues were sponsored by the very white people who hate us the most.
Does it mean you would not like to comply with the court's ruling?
We will comply because we are law-abiding citizens. We have no reason not to comply. But there are gaps that we feel were not considered by the court when they ruled in the manner that they did.
I see that
because sometimes you don't have to come to address any issue with a particular attitude. If there are areas of improvement, they should cite those areas where we should improve in the management of Ingwema Trust, not to seek to abolish it at all.
Got you. I see that you also address the issue of the economy and some of the issues that you point to, for instance, what people have been talking about a lot, Spaza shops. You did speak specifically to Spaza shops and how you as the IFP would wish to manage what's happening there, the kinds of goods that are being sold there, counterfeit goods. How, as the IFP, would you change what's currently happening? Because the laws are in place. I suppose there's an issue of capacity to manage, inspections and so on. Would you look at changing the laws, or do you think there's just an issue of management of some of these Spaza shops?
In the main, it's not the issue of the laws. It's an issue of a will to effect the changes that we want to see and also deal decisively with criminals, because most of these tuck shops are owned by illegal foreigners, which are criminals as far as we are concerned, because you can't come to any country as you wish without following the due process. You yourself can't even cross to Swaziland without going through the border and be allowed to do so. But in South Africa, people do as they please. That is why, therefore, we are saying when we take over as the IFP, first thing, we are going to give them a grace period of 6 months, that those that are illegal in the country should pack their bags and go. Or alternatively, they should actually present themselves to the authorities so they can be regularized. So if they don't do that, then we deport all of them, those that are here illegally.
And how are you going to sustain that? Because every day we know people are deported, they come back. They are deported, they come back.
Yes, that is why we are saying we will enforce the border management and also introduce the army at the borders and build walls in those posts where there is so much risk.
One of the issues that make it so difficult is that obviously we would need cooperation with our neighboring countries. And at the moment, we don't really have a solid central space in which we can manage the movement of people between the borders. Your suggestion and how quickly we can resolve those issues?
I think all those issues are easy if there is a political will, because even our neighbors themselves, they've got a duty to assist South Africa, because as we speak, we've got so many people in this country and they're not accounted for in terms of resources that our government is trying to put there for South Africans. Not that we want to exclude them, we won't exclude them, but at least they must present themselves, they must know to be there, so that even when we allocate budget, we know how many people are in the country. Some are here purely to engage in criminal activities. Some will come here, go to clinic A, and then during the day, go to another clinic. In the afternoon, they go to 3 clinics collecting medication so that they can send them to their own countries. You can see that they are basically here to undermine our country, and that cannot be allowed.
You as the IFP are part of the Multiparty Charter.
That is correct.
You've seen that the DA has released a letter. Yesterday, we've all been talking about it, asking for, observations for the elections by the US. Do you agree with that? They do speak about Multiparty Charter, almost endorsing this move.
I think it's important that I make it clear that I'm not a spokesperson for the DA. So I don't think I should comment in their letter. But from the point of view of the Multiparty Charter, we are part of that. But of course, things that are raised there, we may not wholly agree with them, because you may find that the DA feels so strong that elections actually may be tempered with, in a scale of 1 to 10, they'll say, okay, 9 out of 10. And for the party pieces no, not really, maybe 4 out of 10. So it depends. But from where we see it as the IFP, we haven't lost trust in our IEC, and there's nothing that amounts to so much of an alarm. I will end it like that, to say it's their view, and then that is it.
No. I only asked because they referred to the Multiparty Charter in that letter. So it was from that point of view.
I understand that, yeah.
You are not concerned, as you're saying?
Not necessarily, because we view the coming in of many parties as the majority of our democracy. And as we speak, nothing for us as the IFP has shown some signs of a potential conflict or anything that can undermine the elections.
I do want to open the lines 086 00959. If you don't mind, we'll take those calls and also look at your tweets as well. And I'm very happy to look at those voice notes on 086 00959. Let's talk a bit more about your economic policy. As you said, lots of joblessness. I know that you're also speaking as well about the unemployment grant.
Yes.
Talk to us about that unemployment grant. It's quite a lot of money.
Yes, it's quite a lot of money, but you must understand it from a point of view that says it's not something that will be there permanently.
Okay.
It's going to be kind of a transit grant for graduates who have finished their studies, but they have to go back to that poverty that they left. So in between the time they found employment, there must be some ways of assisting them. And you must also understand that while we are giving them that grant, we will be championing the issue of trying to ignite our economy so that people can be employed. And we are saying in our manifesto that we are going to reserve jobs 80% in ratio 80-20 for local South Africans, because it can't be that at an entry level you find foreign nationals at the expense of our own people. We'll be very deliberate in terms of addressing that, and we are going to industrialize our country, which will bring about more job opportunities, and also invite the private sector to also play their part, because it's something that is very significant, which we have seen recently in South Africa during the times of COVID. It shows that South Africans, black or white, they are willing to come together for the common cause only if they know that whatever government does is in the best interest of people of South Africa. That's why there was even a fund where even individuals were able to contribute that fund. So the only problem here is that the party at the helm seem not to be interested in serving the people of South Africa. So when a new dispensation is ushered in, then everybody will want to be part of a progressive South Africa that seeks to address the problems of our people.
And you've just spoken about, the new part, the current party itself, the ruling party, not really wanting to engage and invite or be willing to participate in these kinds of collaborations. What would then have to happen for the private sector to actually engage more? Because it's not currently.
We must put a government that is trustworthy. That's the only thing, and that's an IFP government. So when people trust government, they will be able to come forth and engage. They'll participate, they'll play their part.
In places where you govern, do you have those kinds of agreements with the private sector?
We do have good private-public partnerships to an extent that even when it comes to the poorer of the poor people, we have got a system where we invite private sectors to build houses for those destitute families without government having to intervene. So it's purely IFP and the private sector.
But KZN is primarily rural, as we know, and you have complained quite a bit as the IFP about the lack of jobs in those communities and infrastructure and so on.
Yes.
Where are these private companies coming in to assist with those infrastructure problems?
Most of the infrastructure that has a problem that is dilapidating, it's the one that is controlled by government. So that is where the problem is. Private sector is playing their part, but government is not playing their part. Hence the need to change the government so that we will put the right people at the helm, and then the private sector will come in. As I said, that private sector can only come in, can only feel that they can contribute if the leaders that are at the helm has the best interest of the people, and they are actually making it possible for them to put in their money. No one can put their money to go down through corruption and all these other issues.
You spoke about industrialization to boost the economy. What else would you be doing to boost this economy?
The other issue, as I said, is that we are going to reserve jobs for people, and the IFP in our manifesto, we are saying we are going to introduce a new grant, which is local economic development, a conditional grant that will be given to municipalities so that they are able to assist small businesses to to construct them and also give them the support that they want. So those are the things that the IFP will do. On the other side, because you know that it doesn't matter how much you are doing, if the country is not safe, no investors will be willing to come and put their money. So we have to deal concurrent with the issue of crime, which means that we must capacitate our police, give them enough resources, and we are going to actually create a corruption court that will specifically deal with corruption cases, so that we deal with corruption once and for all and make sure that our citizens are safe and our people are able to access services whenever that they need, because we find that people will actually have somebody breaking into their houses, but will take the police to come the following day. So all those basic things, we need to make sure that we correct them, put the basics right. Therefore, everybody who has money will be more than willing to come to South Africa and invest.
The entry-level jobs that we are referring to, you are saying that you would want to reserve 80% of those for South Africans. Well, the hospitality sector, people's homes, many of those jobs are in private homes, yes. Hospitality sector, the private sector that you speak of. It's them who are hiring the illegal immigrants. It's not government.
Yeah, that is true. As we are saying, therefore, our approach as the IFP is that you have to, first and foremost, try to partner with people, make them feel that they have a responsibility and a duty to assist. That is why we are saying every illegal person that is here, because we know that some private people hire them because they want to exploit them, because Absolutely. They are underpaid and all that. So we're going to deal with those issues and make sure that there is no one that is actually hiring those people for the reason to exploit them. We will make sure that all those that are here illegally, we take them away, and those jobs should be occupied by South Africans. But we don't say that these people should not be assisted at all, but they must come here with very special skills. And then when they are in this country, there must be a clear plan as to how do they transfer those skills to South Africans, so at a particular time, then they leave. Because you know better that you go to any town here, you've got shops that are fixing cellular phones. None of them are controlled by our own people. This also speaks to our educational system, therefore, because our educational system must be able to respond to what are our targets as a country, what we want to achieve. We can't produce so many graduates that will be actually sitting at home, not getting job. We must change the whole curriculum to respond to our desires as a country if we want to develop.
We all know that there is an infrastructure backlog that we need to deal with. What do you propose in how we're going to have to deal with this backlog? How are we going to fund what's required to get it all done properly?
Sometimes it's not a matter of lack of funding per se. But if you look at the inefficiencies that are in the system, how much money gets back to the coffers of the state just because municipalities, department cannot spend. So you need to put people there who are able to perform, because in the main you find that people are employed but they don't have the expertise and the skills that are required. So we must address that. As the IFP, we are going to do a skills audit to make sure that everybody who's in the employment of the state is having all the requirement and is able to deliver. Because it's very odd and very strange. I'm coming from a private sector. I can't understand how can a person get a performance bonus, yet his department is underperforming. What nonsense is that? You can't allow that. A person must get a performance bonus because he has excelled and exceeded the targets that have been put. We are outsourcing so much of the services because we don't have internal capacity. So the IFP government will build that internal capacity so that we minimize on using consultants to do the very same job that somebody is being hired, getting a salary every month to perform that job. So by realigning budget and also addressing and closing all these leakages, we'll be able to save so much money to deal with all these problems.
But you would subscribe also to cadre deployment?
I wouldn't say, okay, let me answer this way. Cadre deployment on its own is not a problem.
Yes.
Because even if you try to understand the term cadre deployment, it speaks to a person that has the expertise, the know-how of how to do the job. But what, as the IFP believes in, that everybody who gets to the employment of the state must be somebody that is fit for the purpose, not on the basis of which party belongs to, on how close the person is to Mzamo Buthelezi.
But they would have to be. They would have to be what? They would have to be an IFP member, in good standing. Even though they're qualified, you would be deploying people.
No. We don't work like that as the IFP. You know, in some strategic places, say for example, where it happens now,
yes,
you've got a mayor,
yes,
who wants a manager in his office. Therefore, somebody must be considered who understand the policies of the IFP, who will be able to assist that. But as a technocrat,
yes,
you don't have to have our own party. And we've got evidence to that. Myself, I was a mayor of Zululand. I inherited a municipality from the NFP. The person, all the staff in my office, I never fired anyone. Some actually came to me in the morning to tender that resignation, expecting that I would accept them because they know what is happening next door. But I said, no, I can't. You know, you will be firing yourself on the basis of your approval performance. Otherwise, you are stuck with me.
Let's take a quick break and I'll take those calls on 086 00959. Very happy to take your voice notes as well. And I will be looking at those tweets at X's at Kaya on Air. That's where you can find us. And you can tag me at Pimelo Mutine. Thank you so much for staying with us. We are still looking at the elections 2024, our road to the elections here on Kaya. We are speaking to political parties. We are unpacking the manifestos. And today we are looking at the IFP. And in studio with us is the IFP Deputy President Inkosi Mzamo Buthelezi. Siyabonga Baba, thank you for staying with us once again. And we will continue to look at those tweets, at those X's, at Kaya on Air, at Pimelo Mutine. We'll take your calls 086 00959, and you can send those voice notes on 063 688 0959 with your questions for Inkosi Mzamo Buthelezi. Let me ask you, you spoke a bit about crime, the issue of crime, and saying that nobody's going to be investing in a country where we have a crime problem. The IFP's strategy on dealing with crime.
Firstly, the Minister of Police in this country is on record admitting that within the system you've got criminals. So that tells you that we are not going to be able to defeat the issue of crime if police themselves, some of them, we must qualify that, are criminals. So what the IFP is going to do, then we're going to vet all of them so that we rid the subs of all this rot, and also capacitate them, as I said before, make sure that they've got all the resources that they need to deal with crime, and also empower them, because it's one thing to be a police officer and only to find that you are hopeless, you know. Some people even physically handle police because they can't do anything. And they're killed every day because they've got guns on their hip, but they cannot actually defend even themselves. So that's a problem. So we're going to enforce law and make sure that citizens of this country are actually fearful of law, and they know that if you transgress, what is going to come after. And also strengthen the justice system so that those that are actually convicted, or rather those that have been convicted, yes, they serve good sentences. And the IFP also is going to introduce a discussion which seeks to bring back the death penalty for these very serious crimes like rape and all the likes.
Yeah. You've governed in KZN.
Yes.
And we know that there are many NGOs, research organizations who talk about the number of illegal weapons and guns that are sitting in the hands of people. We don't know what the numbers are, but we know that there was a process where people were asked to hand in guns, and we also know that, well, it didn't seem like everybody handed those guns. What would your suggestion be in how to finally, once and for all, get those guns out of, you know, the dark holes that they're in?
I think that will be through an extensive exercise by the government to encourage people to come forth. But also, I may sound like I'm justifying, which I'm not at all. You know, some people will actually keep those illegal guns because they don't feel safe. So if then they start to believe that they've got a government that is going to protect them. And indeed, government is seen protecting the citizens. And those that are not law-abiding citizens are actually brought to the book. I think it's only then that we'll begin to see more people, what you call, bringing forth those guns. And those guns are not in the hands of ordinary citizens in the province or in the country, but they are in the hands of criminals. So when you deal with criminality, you will be also dealing with the issue of illegal firearms.
Yeah, meaning a criminal is not going to bring back an AK-47.
Exactly, unless therefore
even if you
try
ask them
to,
nicely.
Yes, unless you begin to be strict on them, you deal with them decisively, then you will reduce criminals, and then some will even surrender on their own because they know that they've got no space. Close the room completely so they can't breathe, then they'll come forth.
I know you spoke about the death penalty. What else would you want to be reviewing in the Constitution?
We are going to be reviewing Section 7 and 12 of the Constitution to actually make it clear in terms of the roles and responsibilities and functions of traditional leaders, because that is not clear. Because you remember that before the 1994, during the negotiations, that was one aspect which almost costed the IFP not to participate in the elections. And there were undertakings that were made, which was to say immediately after the elections, those issues will be actually looked into. But that has never happened. And we feel that Amakosi have a role to play, and their roles and responsibilities must be clearly defined so that there isn't even a conflict between them and councillors.
And what specifically would you like to review?
As I say, the powers, what are the powers of Amakosi, what are their roles, and what are their responsibilities.
And where do you think they'd be earning their money?
From the state.
From the state?
Yes.
And you think they can earn from the state and still have the powers that you're asking for?
I mean powers in terms of what are their duties.
Yes.
Because it's like you can't be working for the state and not be paid. Because Amakosi are playing so much role. They are bringing our people together in terms of social cohesion, in terms of practicing restorative justice. There's so much that Amakosi are doing. It's a pity that even researchers, they don't have much interest to actually research as to what is exactly Amakosi are bringing in terms of the value that they are bringing, yes.
If you don't mind, let's just take, I think you're going to need your headphones, Inkosi, so that you can hear. There is a voice note coming through. Let's take a listen.
Evening, Pamela. I'd like to be anonymous in KZN. I have a few questions for the IFP for Inkosi Ushenge Lapo. The first question to Ushenge is, how are they moving out from being the cultural group, if I may call it like that, because currently Inkatha is attracting the Zulu-speaking people or the Zulu nation at the moment, if we could say, because as you can see that it's mostly ruling in KwaZulu-Natal. That's the first question. The second question is, I'm disappointed to the IFP as the resident of Uthugela district. They gave us, I'm pleased that you asked about the cadre deployment, because the current mayor of Uthugela, of theirs, is someone that you barely know what he's good at or what he's capable of, because that person barely don't understand Umnambiti or Uthugela, but because he is Inkosi, that's why they made him a mayor. So that's my worry with the IFP, because they are more of, if you are Inkosi, you need to have a position in the IFP. I'm very disappointed in that. I'm the resident of Uthugela, and I'm disappointed to the IFP that they gave Uthugela that kind of a mayor, because currently, I think on my area, with the more than 5 years now, we don't have water. The last time we had water, it was under the mayor, that was the ANC, Duduma Zibuko, if I'm not mistaken. But still the IFP, that guy is too arrogant to be the mayor. Thank you very much, Pamela.
Yes, I really appreciate the question that the listener is actually asking. But let me start by the last question that he posed. It's not true that you have to be Inkosi to be considered. And it's very unfortunate that people are able to phone and cast aspersions on personal characters of leaders. It's surprising. Inkosi himself has been a member of the legislature in the past. So this is a seasoned leader. The issue of challenges of water, we are aware as the IFP, and we know exactly what is the cause of that. That municipality, Utugela district, is operating on an unfunded budget. And the projection says that up until 2029, it's only then that municipality will be able to have a funded budget. And that's not the creation of the IFP, but what we've inherited from the ruling party. Secondly, there are elements of sabotage. As we speak, there are matters that are in court where there are people who were caught red-handed interfering with the infrastructure so that they undermine the administration of the IFP. So I'm giving you facts to say that's not true. I think I'm also helping my brother to really understand what is actually taking place in Utugela. The issue of the IFP being a cultural group, that is not the case. I'm not sure whether the surname Van der Merwe is a Zulu surname. We've got all ethnic groups in the IFP, but it's a fact that the majority of our membership are coming from KZN. And there's a clear reason why that is the case, because the IFP has been in charge of KwaZulu-Natal, so people know what the IFP is capable of doing. That is why they support it.
So how are you going to grow your base? As you're saying, KZN is a familiar territory for you, and you are known, you've governed there before. Surely you want a bigger cake.
Of course, we want a bigger cake.
So how are you going
to do that? And we are growing indeed. In Mpumalanga, we've got a footprint. Here in Gauteng, we've got a member of parliament. In the Western Cape, we've got footprint. I think in the main, people now are beginning to see things for themselves. What has costed us most of our support as the IFP was the propaganda and lies that was actually fabricated by our enemies. So now people are beginning to realize and see that all that they were told was not true.
But I mean, it's politics, right? People are going to be throwing mud.
Yeah,
you
I understand.
You obviously need to deal with that.
Yes, that's why I'm saying we are dealing with it. Yeah. Hence, you see the growth. If you look at the numbers that were in Mojapelo Stadium on Sunday, it tells
impressive numbers.
Impressive. We are smiling
but
all
it's your
over.
home base. It's your home base.
No. That was a national manifesto launch. So we had people coming from other places, So we are doing all it takes. And in Limpopo, we've got a footprint there. So the IFP is really growing. We are satisfied that the pace in which we are growing is a good pace that will put us somewhere in the very near future.
So we have the MK party being formed. We also believe very strong base in KZN.
Yes.
Would you collaborate if needs be? When you have to talk about, some sort of an arrangement at national government?
We've got an open door policy. Any party that seeks to talk to us, as long as that party has a keen interest to serve KwaZulu-Natal, they're not coming with any agenda except to serve. We are open to any political party.
Even the kind of political party that the Multiparty Charter does not want to talk to, like the EFF.
The IFP is on record in that score.
Yes.
We wrote to them, we said we do not subscribe to that provision. And there is an exclusion clause in the same charter, which actually we made use of to say, as much as you are saying that, but the IFP is not subscribing to that. Yes.
Let's talk about education. You are asking for reforming the NSFAS grant. What do you want to change?
I will make an example, because we all know that many people are not getting NSFAS, and those that are getting, it's not sustainable. It doesn't take them throughout. We find that there are students who got NSFAS the first 2 months or so. After that, then they don't actually get. So the IFP says that competency should be given back to universities.
Okay.
Yes, so that it's better managed.
So basically what you're saying is that...
Decentralized.
Yeah, okay. From government straight to the university,
exactly.
And then they manage that administrative process.
Yes, and also there must be an alignment, because it doesn't make sense that there is a kid that is born today. He or she grows from a support grant from the state.
Yes.
Government pays everything.
School fees.
But when the person finishes matric, she's got or he's got to apply. Why? Because he's already in the system. There must be an alignment. with SASSA, so that everybody who has been a beneficiary of SASSA automatically qualifies for NSFAS after.
There's a call by students to change and to revisit the threshold. Would you consider that of those who benefit?
Yeah, of course. Because you see, there are some people, let me make an example with myself now.
Yes.
There are some people who are working, who are earning a salary. You know, us as black people, we are responsible for a number of extended family. You find that what you earn does not necessarily benefit your own kids, and you can't afford to pay for the education fees of your own kids, yet you're a taxpayer. So it doesn't make sense. That's why we say education should be free and there shouldn't be any restriction, especially it should be designed around the understanding, better put, of a black family. Because you can't be working here and you're responsible for all your sisters, kids and everybody else. Your earning does not actually allow you to afford everything, but does it mean that your kids should stay without education just because you are so generous? It can't be.
Free basic education, it's going to also be a very expensive exercise.
Yes, it's going to be.
This is across the border, if I understand it correctly.
Yes. So it's not going to be costly. Yes, it will be, but you have to have educated citizens because for them to be active participants in the economy, they must be educated. That's why even in our manifesto, we are saying something like we are going to remove the life orientation as a subject because it doesn't add any value. Instead, bring in what you call entrepreneurial, some lessons and also financial lessons, so that our kids from high school level, they understand how to manage their finances and they've got an understanding of how to become an entrepreneur instead of this subject that doesn't have.
How are you going to teach them about Amakosi and Namasiko if you want to remove life orientation?
That can be taught at home because some of the things are the competencies of the parents at home. So it's not everything that can be taught at school. The parents themselves must play their part. They must be able to orientate their kids in as far as their culture is concerned, their morals and values is concerned. So it's even easier for the teachers at school. Like in our times, we got most of our morals and how to relate to an elderly person from home. So it's not the duty of the teacher at school. The teacher at school should be teaching, and that's it.
You're worried about load shedding and ESCOM. Your suggestions in how to deal with this load shedding crisis?
The main thing is that when the IFP government takes over, you have heard from a number of people that load shedding in the main was caused by corruption and total negligence by the ruling party. We've got an infrastructure that needs to be serviced, but it was never serviced because money was actually embezzled. So once you deal with the issue of corruption and you put competent people, we once visited ESCOM there, and the director told us that ESCOM was just a feeding trough for the ruling party. That tells you how ESCOM collapsed. So we are not going to go away from coal-powered power station as the IFP. No. That's our resource. We've got it in abundance. So we must use it. We're also going to consider mixed economy, what you call energy, as it is the case now. The government is exploring or introducing nuclear, and also we're going to encourage people to use gas for cooking and heating. So it should be that mixture, but we won't actually go away from coal. And we deal with issues of corruption and make sure that we put right people there, because you've got staff members there, good engineers, but they can't perform their duties. They can tell that if politics can go out of this thing, we'll be able to manage all these power stations.
Well, the report that has just come through with assessors from Germany say one of the problems is that the structure itself is problematic, the management structure. Too many people in the kitchen. Some don't know what they're doing. That
Exactly.
would probably mean that in that restructuring process, you would have to get rid of jobs. Would you be able to be brave enough to come in and fire people and get rid of jobs?
We are going to be brave enough. As we speak, the wage bill is exorbitant.
It is.
But you can address that without firing anyone. For example, if you've got here a department at Kaya FM that is overstaffed.
Yes.
Another department downstairs that is understaffed. So you take people from this department, then you second them to that, so that you don't get any new people coming into the system. That's also one way as to how you can address issues like that.
But it's bloated either way. It's bloated.
Yes, it is.
So that restructuring may mean that some jobs would have to be lost.
Yeah, that will be. It will depend on how each and every person was employed. If you know that you came through the back door, then you must know that you don't deserve to be there at any chance. So you know for a fact yourself.
State-owned entities,
yes.
Lots of debates about how to rescue them. Of course, some quarters saying, let's bring in the private sector, let's sell parts of it, let's debundle them, let's cut them into little pieces. What are your views on how to deal with some of these state-owned entities?
We are on record as the IFP advocating for public-private partnerships to say that bring a private partner because that will bring in some new expertise and new skills. But we must not forget as to why are we here. It's because of political interference in the main. So if you deal with that, you will solve half of the problem. And then whatever that is left, therefore, you can consider bringing a private partner, but not to give them more shares like
Yes.
in ESCOM, because that will undermine actually the security of the country.
What do you think should be happening with the SAA? There's that deal that's in the balance at the moment?
Yeah, that deal was, it's not a deal, in fact. It was, I don't know how I can call it, but we all know that the minister was trying to strike a private deal for his friends. They deliberately destroyed South African Airways so that they can buy it with a cent. So the IFP believes that if it can't perform, it must be sold, but that process must be open to the public and the right partner should be brought in. But also we must make sure that people don't lose jobs in the process. That new partner that will come must be able to absorb all of them. Because one of the problems of South African Airways was that there were routes that were very profitable, but deliberately the ministers did not want to pursue them because there was no kickbacks for them. So they had to actually compromise the whole, what you call company for their own benefit. So that speaks to the character of the ruling party.
Your sentiments about how Transnet is going at the moment?
All state-owned entities, in fact, they are in a mess. So all of them, they need to be overhauled. We need to address so many problems. Our rails are not working. Logistics is in a mess. All this, what you call fleet that should be transported through the rail comes to the road. You see how our roads are. So we need to begin a process of rebuilding our country.
So you spoke of all of this being a reason, the reason behind all of this being interference, political interference.
Yes.
What would that mean for the IFP? Changing the legislation, or how would you stop interfering as the IFP if you're in power?
Let me make one example. You don't have some of the problems that we've got does not need that you change legislation or all that, but you need a person that is determined to correct the wrongs, that is determined to ensure that there is consequence management, what is lacking, because people are getting away with the matter because they can't be disciplined. You know, if I'm conflicted as a politician, as a minister, I can't discipline you like yourself here. If your manager is conflicted with you, so he can't discipline you. So that's a problem that is there. So the IFP has that political will. We are not conflicted at all. We are there to clean the mess. And the IFP believes that there should be a clear line between the technocrats and the politicians. Politicians must play their part and technocrats must be allowed to perform their duties and be assessed on the basis of their performance without any interference.
Thank you so much for staying with us. We're looking at manifestos, and today it's the IFP's turn, and I'm in conversation with the Deputy President of the IFP, Inkosi Mzamo Buthelezi. Inkosi Buthelezi, just put your headphones on. We've got a voice note coming through.
Hello, my sister and the leader there. How are you? Yeah, I've got a concern. I've got a concern with kings, because now kings sometimes, most of the time, not sometimes, most of the time they exploit their power. Yes, they look at King Mswati. You understand? Look at King Mswati. There are a lot of kings that are entitled. You understand? And yet, at the same time, you look at that the community around, they are not being developed. The area is not developed, but the king is living a marvelous life.
Inkosi Buthelezi, they are attacking the kings now.
No,
Yeah.
I think I hear what he's trying to say, but he made reference of King Mswati, of which I think it's outside our jurisdiction. Yeah, but here in South Africa, we don't have cases like that. I don't think there is such that he can actually refer to here in the country. Amakosa are doing a great job. You've got Rabafukeng in the northern, in the northwest. They are doing very well. So it's not necessarily the case. Yeah, but in terms of where he referred to, as I said, that's outside our jurisdiction.
That's fine. So let's talk about that. Your foreign policy as an IFP.
Yes.
He's just spoken about Eswatini. We know concerns about Eswatini, Zimbabwe, our neighboring countries. What would your foreign policy be on those issues?
Our foreign policy is on the basis of democracy, justice, civil liberties. That's the basis on which we engage with anyone. I will say so.
And let's talk about, since we are still on foreign policy, on the Gaza issue, your position as the IFP.
Our position as a party is that both countries need to seek for a lasting solution, which is a two-state solution. That's our position as the IFP.
Both countries, you
yes.
say. Is there still a Palestine government that we can say both parties need to still sit and talk?
Yeah, we say they must sit down and then on their own, with the assistance of the international world communities, they should come up with a solution themselves, because no solution that will ever work if it's imposed by anyone.
Immediately, though, what do you think needs to happen?
I think immediately what needs to happen there is to cease fire and then begin to engage. Because I think us as South Africans, we know better the value in negotiation, because that's how we actually secured our democracy. There's nothing that will actually mean so much than being able to sit down, agree to disagree, but at the end of the day, they must know that it rests with them to find the lasting solution.
You speak of improving the healthcare system. How?
Yes. You know that if you come across an accident outside there, you will actually wait for an ambulance until the next morning. You go to any clinic, they don't have medication. You go to any hospital, people are actually asking pass outs for their families, because our public hospitals has become a way to die place. If you don't have a medical aid, you've got far less chances of surviving, even if when you're sick. So the IFP will actually make sure that, as I said in the beginning, do the basics right, improve the infrastructure, make sure that there's adequate staffing, nurses, doctors, and support staff are well taken care of in terms of their pay, and then make sure that there is access to healthcare for every citizen of this country.
So that's universal healthcare that you're advocating for. Let's take another voice note. All right. We'll come back to that voice note. I see that... okay, let's take a listen.
And hello to the IFP gentlemen. I just wanted to ask the gentlemen of the IFP and the IFP regarding the political criminals that we know of, that they are committing crimes, like as he mentioned now, that the SAA was being sold by someone who wanted a deal for his friends so that they buy it in a very less amount of a cent. How are they going to take that and arrest those people?
Yes, I like your questions. I think to solve the problem needs us collectively. Hence, the IFP is calling for every South African to vote for Inkatha, because if you vote for Inkatha, you are voting for a party of goodwill that will not suffer from all these troubles that other parties are suffering from. And when you are at the helm, we'll make sure that we follow through all the activities that have been taking place, including this one. It doesn't matter whether you're a minister. If we believe that you have done something that is irregular, you have actually done something that you shouldn't have actually interfered in as a minister, we're going to deal with you decisively. You must also remember that there is this state capture report that was issued. We will make sure that we follow every recommendation through if we take over. Doesn't matter who is involved or who is implicated.
Sipoguhle is asking on X, how are you going to be funding the graduate grants that you're speaking of?
Okay. First and foremost, we must explain that this grant is not a permanent grant. It's going to be temporary. In fact, it's a transit from graduation up until you get your first job. And on the other side, as I said, we will be making sure that we create so many job opportunities for people to finish their studies and go back to work. But we are going to realign the budget. By realigning the budget or reprioritizing the budget, because you will find that there's so much money that is getting lost through corruption, there's so money that is getting lost through fruitless and wasteful expenditure. So there is money that is there, but it only needs us as the IFP to realign and also reprioritize. We'll be able to get money from that one.
Let's take a listen to another voice note.
Good evening, Pamela, and your guest over there in studio. I've got so many questions, but for the sake of time, I'll only ask about this one. So, as the IFP, if you get the power, are you going to go back and fix the mess that was made by the ANC, or you will just take over and continue from there? And I speak this in reference to, we know that there are bribes that are taken for people to receive houses, RDP houses, and I'm talking about foreigners in this case. And we've got South Africans who don't have houses. Is the IFP willing to go back and fix such kind of problems?
Of course, the IFP is going to fix those problems, and it's good that I've already mentioned that in relation to the foreign nationals, because they can't benefit at the expense of South Africans, and we have a political will to solve all these problems. The mess that is there, as you are putting it, we are going to clean it.
The data costs, you want to bring them down. How?
I think the issue of data, you see, there is so much happening within that space. We believe that data is very expensive. People can't afford that. So what needs to happen is that we will actually engage with the service providers and make sure that they actually charge our people a fair amount of money, and the state also has to subsidize a substantial amount of data, because in fact data should be free for many people. In fact,
those service providers have gone to court number of times saying they don't want to do that, so it would be a subsidy by the state.
Subsidized, but going to court should not be like a shield for wrongdoings. People can't be exploited, and people think that because they've got money, they will have to run to court and courts will rule in their favor. There must be an element of fairness here. Government has a duty to protect its citizens. I can't understand why a service provider will actually charge this boldly 100 rands just because they have a monopoly. And then if we want to intervene as government in the best interest of South Africans, then they'll take us to court. Why are they doing business here? They shouldn't.
So what are you going to do? How are you going to stop them?
We are going to engage them. we are going to engage them and make sure that they understand our point of view and they understand the duty and the responsibility that they've got to the same citizens from where they are getting money from.
So finally, why should anybody vote for the IFP?
Because the IFP is a part of goodwill. We've got leaders that has a keen interest to serve South Africa. People have known themselves, they are seeing what is happening. Only the IFP that would be able to clean that mess. We have a track record. We have been tried and tested. Yeah, we are able to, we are equal to the task.
IFP Deputy President Inkosi Mzamo Buthelezi, I really appreciate you coming in. Thank you, Baba.
And thank you very much for having us.
That brings us to the end of the show. I'll be back tomorrow at 8.
Kaya 959. Kaya